to take care of le fin absolu du monde. I hate that film. And I understand its power. I wish it had never been made. Do you understand what that's like, Kirby? Wanting to do penance for something, but knowing it's too late.
Yeah, I do.
People said terrible things about Hans. Some people said he deserved his death. Maybe he did. But I miss him terribly.
Miss Bagovic.
Oh, gotcha.
Gotcha. Can I watch the film?
I was just thinking, like, you watch Le Fin Absolue du Monde, like, you watch it on a plane or you watch it on the treadmill at the gym, and like everyone behind you who can see it, like, it goes insane.
Yeah.
Because I love watching other people's laptops on the plane. I think everyone does, but like movies are best when you can't hear the audio and you're watching them like through the crack of the seat in front of you.
It's honestly like, you know how David Lynch is like, watching a film
on your
fucking
phone. Telephone.
Yeah, that's like the greatest insult to cinema. But I think honestly, the best viewing experience is what you're describing, watching on somebody else's laptop through the crack of
yes.
two air seats on an airplane with no audio.
I'll never forget on my most recent plane trip watching Dobby die in the 7th Harry Potter movie on like an adult's laptop who is sitting in front of me.
It's such a fun game trying to like guess, like figure out what movie a person is watching.
Mm-hmm.
Well, could you tell the person's emotional reaction to Dobby's death?
Sitting completely like plainly, like stone faced in the seat, just looking forward, as all of us are.
How does he die?
God, I can't remember.
I think he just like slips in the shower and is like, wah! And he like falls through the glass door of the shower.
Yeah.
Someone assigned male at birth goes into the Dobby bathroom and he has a heart attack. We should have known. It was right there in front of us.
Adab assigned Dobby at birth. Jesus. Well,
that's
team,
what the podcast is about, my friend.
That's what it's all about. Shall we, boys?
Yep. We're going to get into talking about the 7th Harry Potter movie.
We
Through
sure
the
are.
cracks of a plane on somebody else.
Something somehow even more demonic than that. Something with even more of the devil's influence than Harry Potter.
We should watch a movie sometime and not have the sound on and try and figure out what was happening.
A Christian movie or any movie?
A Christian movie, probably.
Yeah, that would be fun. I bet we could probably script it out at this point.
Yeah.
Except for the weird DIY ones that you just like will never know where they go.
Yeah.
But if it was like, you know, like one of those Lionsgate distributed ones, then sure.
Yeah.
Right. Or some PureFlix original fare.
Right.
Well, shall we, boys?
Yeah, let's do it.
Welcome back to Boys Bible Study. Imagine a podcasting experience so dark and so extreme that it generates real power. That's right. It's Boys Bible Study. I'm Ash. I'm here with my co-hosts,
Scott
and Julian.
And hey, Halloween is approaching. And
real spoopy hours.
It's about to get very spoopy in here. So I just wanted to know, guys, what are we putting in trick-or-treat bags instead of candy this year?
Rainbow colored fentanyl is what what I hear is flying off the shelves right now.
Yeah. just a little sprinkle.
Yeah.
Flash drives with the movie La Fin Absolue du Monde on them.
Yeah. With a note that says, "Welcome to the world of cinephilia."
Yeah, it says unreleased Marvel movie.mp4.
Oh God, this is so much better than mine. I don't have one yet.
This movie made me miss the days of, well, that joke made me really miss the days of like LimeWire, where you would like download a song, like download a new Weird Al song, and it was just like some random dude on the Bob and Tom show, like singing about beer runs or whatever. And it's like, I don't remember Weird Al sounding like this. Or like, oh, here's an episode of SpongeBob or something, and it's just not that at all.
No. Actually, I do think there was something about cigarette burns, although it had nothing to do with the internet. It did remind me of internet era movie watching for a couple of reasons. I think because I identified with the mindset of that age I was in the LimeWire days and the types of movies I was trying to find. Yeah. Like during those days. So I think I associate it with that, but it was not necessarily about the internet. Yeah. But,
he does kind of get caught up in a wormhole though, and like follows it to its like natural and horrifying ending, basically.
Yes. Yeah. Which is very, there's an internet like sort of train of thought that it follows. Well, without further ado, let's introduce our movie that we're talking this week, because there's lots to say, and I could feel us just diving into it without formally introducing it. Gentle listeners, if you are familiar with this movie, you will know this is not a Christian movie, albeit one that is deeply spiritual. And this is going to be one of those rare but fun Boys Bible Study episodes where we apply our religious film criticism from the point of view of being experts in like Protestant filmmaking. We are going to watch a deeply spiritual film this week, which is actually John Carpenter's Masters of Horror episode. This is an hour-long movie that he directed called Cigarette Burns, which, if you are a horror fan, maybe the reputation of this film precedes it. But we love it. We're so excited to talk about it today.
If you want to check it out, it's on Tubi.
Yeah, it's on Tubi.
So very easy to find.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's on Vudu for free as well.
Yeah. And I think FIN
Absolue du Monde.
Yeah, that was on the recommended watches app on Tubi after I finished watching this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Nice.
So that is
That's
on
weird.
Tubi now. Yeah.
They just roll right into it once you finish. It's like you have 15 seconds to ruin your life and the lives of your loved ones.
Yeah.
Dude, that's the thing. This whole streaming age has made the hunt for the film so much less romantic, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's because of all like the corporate mergers and stuff.
Exactly.
You know, they canceled Craig. They canceled Craig of the Creek for nothing, but they kept FIN Absolute du Monde.
Yeah. HBO Max tried to delete it from their archive to make space for more, but it just wouldn't delete. The file stayed there.
Yeah. And it's easier to, instead of laying off like an entire animation department, you just show them all the cursed movie and the problem kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know, we are spotlighting horror all through October. We're doing our standard Christian horror films. This is a horror film with deeply Christian themes. I mean, in all honesty, conceptually, Cigarette Burns, I do think, is one of the scariest things I've ever seen from a pure like conceptual writing basis, you know?
Yeah.
Same.
It's such a scary idea when used, and it's like executed in such a scary way.
Yes.
And like, I don't know, for me, it really taps into like watching Tales from the Crypt as a kid, and just like, it's higher production value than those like 90s horror anthology shows, but it definitely has that same feeling that's like almost like uncanny valley, because they're all so like grounded in reality,
right?
But there's still like almost like a soap opera element to the production that just makes it so uneasy and really scary. This is one of the very few movies I've seen in the past several years where I was like scared to walk to my car after we watched it together at your apartment the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just like the tiniest bit of background. I mean, obviously, everyone listening, I'm sure you know who John Carpenter is, or you've seen some of his famous films, many famous horror films. One of the greatest horror directors, arguably, of all time. I would certainly say so. Masters of Horror is a horror anthology show, which I do like the horror anthology format. It is really fun.
Yeah.
You know, like, I agree. It had some of like the seriousness is gone from it in a weird way, because like no director is trying to make like their defining work, but also it feels like every Masters of Horror I've seen, it is directors like trying to bring their A game.
Yeah, and especially for like genre stuff, an hour is such like a perfect amount of time.
Perfect.
Because you don't have the like extra 30 minutes or whatever of like world building or introducing like concepts that could very easily have been cut. Like this, it's literally just follow the guy trying to find the movie, and that's it. There's no like, everything else is just like there's no like side stories or anything. It's just
right.
Like, yeah, it's very focused, flies by, and just really, if it has a tone and mood to it that it's able to like maintain, I think, because of the short runtime.
Yeah, I completely agree. Any other Masters of Horror episodes that you recommend? I've only seen a couple.
One I think about the most, after Cigarette Burns, of course, is Toby Hooper's Dance of the Dead. And it's like a post-apocalyptic situation in the not so distant future. And there's like bad teens, I guess, hanging out. And the thing I always remember is the way that they're doing drugs in the car with the like top down. They just keep doing like more and more outlandish things. And it's just like shows close-ups of them like laughing really hard. It's like seemed like in the vein of like old like marijuana scare movies from like, I don't know, whenever the fuck they started making those in the 50s or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun. It's pretty great. I always think about that. So that's a fun one. But really, most of them are pretty enjoyable. I think it's like a good like late night fodder. One I hadn't seen was that Takashi Miike one, Imprint, that you were saying, Ash, is like so upsetting.
So I was just going to say, I watched a couple of these with, the only one I had seen was the John Carpenter one, which we're going to talk about. And roommate Jim and I watched a couple of our favorite directors, just going down the line. We watched the one by I'm blanking on his name, but the Reanimator director.
Stuart Gordon.
Yeah, it was quirky. It was about like Edgar Allan Poe. It was fun. But we were like, oh, it's Takashi Miike. Love that guy. Let's watch his. Not kidding. As someone who has seen some pretty extreme films, like as far as, you know, a fictional film can be extreme. I mean, I haven't seen them all, but I've seen more than your average, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen Cannibal Holocaust and stuff, okay? I know what I'm getting into. This movie, it's called Imprint by Takashi Miike, is possibly the most upsetting film I've ever seen. For the first time since I was a kid, there was a sequence of about a minute and a half where I physically did not look at the screen, like where I had my hands completely over my eyes.
Damn.
It was and it was like this scene that I thought I could go without doing it. And like, he would keep doing things and your mind would be like, just cut, please, cut. cut. Go to the next thing. Go to the next thing. And no, it would just get worse and worse. The guy is a fucking sicko. I love him. Don't get me wrong.
Ash, was that part where you're closing your eyes during quote unquote the torture scene?
Yes, definitely. There is the torture scene. And again, I've seen torture scene. I mean, okay, Audition by Takashi Miike. Love that torture scene. That one's incredible. Mm-hmm. I mean, he makes a fucking, I mean, that one's hard to watch, but this one, ooh boy, it is, you just hate to see it. And like that, and also conceptually and everything else that happens in it, it's just like, imagine everything you don't want to see or think about Not all of, not the whole movie isn't like, oh, I can't look. That part is, but the whole movie is like, I don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
And he makes you think about it.
Whoa.
So good for you.
Yeah, I read that Showtime chose not to air it. So
Yeah.
it was unseen
wild.
until the series came out on DVD.
Wow.
It's incredibly done. I mean, it's only an hour long. I mean, the costuming I thought was marvelous. Like there were things about it that were like genuinely. I mean, his films are always very impressive.
Yeah, he's a seasoned vet.
Absolutely, he knows what he's fucking doing. Yeah, it was very upsetting. I mean, I still think there's people who would think that Cannibal Holocaust is more upsetting, in the realm because it has like real animal death and cruelty in the movie. But as far as things that don't involve that, this did it for me.
Ash, after you messaged us that you and Jim had seen it, I was like, I'll probably watch it either before or after Cigarette Burns. And when I went to search for it, one still popped up, and I was like, nope, don't want to think about that.
That's funny. We didn't know a single thing about it. We just went into
That's
blind.
awesome. Going in blind, the most disturbing.
It really was. We really were shocked by it in a way that I wasn't expecting.
That's kind of what it was like when we watched Visitor Q, which is also Takashi.
Yes, and you know what? I was thinking of Visitor Q because Visitor Q is, I mean, also very disturbing and hard to watch. But you know what? I'll give Visitor Q over Imprint. Visitor Q is funnier.
Yeah. Okay.
Which, I mean, makes me, a pervert to say. But, I mean, it's a comedy. Come on. Like, there's comedy elements to it.
Yeah.
Imprints, no.
For you, this is possibly your Le FIN Absolue du Monde, like the closest thing to like making you lose your mind or like truly upset you have seen at the wrong time or something.
Yeah, I think so. No, I like this, Scott. You were thinking like, because I mean, this whole movie, Cigarette Burns, what it really is about at its core is the cinephile's urge to find the most extreme movie. Can you handle it? It's just a movie. Why can't you handle it?
Right.
So, I liked your suggestion of being like the movie within the movie within Cigarette Burns is called La Fin Absolue du Monde, the absolute end of the world. What is our personal La Fin Absolue du Monde? What's either the most disturbing thing we've seen or the film that we idealized? My answer is probably going to be a film that I idealized as that, whether or not that is actually true, Further
details we should explain about La Fin Absolue du Monde is that not only is it like the most transgressive film ever made, but like literally it makes people get insanely violent within the theater in like like horrendous ways, in Takashi Miike level ways. And like murder each other or worse, or I don't know. They speak about it kind of vaguely, but like horrifically. So is La Fin Absolue du Monde, is it for us, we got to think like, I guess either the most transgressive thing you've seen or the movie that made you the most angry?
That's one way to think about it. I think we could answer that way. I don't know. I think for me, the way I thought about it was just like, what's the film I went on a hunt for?
Oh yeah, just the movie you've looked for the hardest. Interesting.
Yeah, in a way.
It's that too.
In specifically the transgressive sense. Well, we all might look at it differently. Should I go ahead and give my answer?
Yes.
So I actually already mentioned it, but I mean, for me, the film that represents extreme cinema, it's the quintessential extreme cinema. Don't watch it, or, can you handle it? Or, it's out there. That movie is Cannibal Holocaust. When I was a teen and I was 12 and 13 in the years 2002, 2003, my family had just gotten internet. We were like one of the last ones I knew to get internet. And I started getting into weird art because it was like, you still couldn't find just anything unless you knew how to use the internet beyond the way I could. But I started, my natural like young curiosity was just like, well, what's out there, And I started hearing about these extreme films. I heard about Gummo by Harmony Korine, which I was uploaded to YouTube in parts, and I watched it, and it changed my life. It's still one of my favorite movies, although not nearly as extreme as Cannibal Holocaust. But I saw a still from Cannibal Holocaust of a woman impaled through her entire body on a spear, and it just always stuck in my mind as like, I need to see that film, And I actually found it on DVD like several years later. I was like 19 or 20. A local video store had it on DVD, and I bought it, and I finally watched it. And I think it is an amazing movie. I only watched it once. I haven't watched it since, but I mean, I could talk about it for a whole podcast worth of material, but like, I think it is a very compelling and inspiring movie that says a lot about society, I guess. So that's my Le Fin Absolue du Monde.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of trying to rack my brain now, thinking about like what movie I actually looked for the hardest and for the most amount of time, or just spent the most time trying to track down.
Yeah, I would be curious to know that about you, but you could also answer it the way that you were proposing, because I think that's just as valid of a way to approach this topic.
Yeah, no, I'll have to think about that a little bit more. It's funny, I guess, and to some extent, the answer is Takashi Miike's Imprint, because I was about to watch it and I was like, oh, I think this is too much for me. And it's like, what am I imagining? I don't want to get closer to it and like have it imprinted in my brain forever. But then I was thinking too about like what movies made me the most angry watching them, and it's really rare that a movie actually makes me angry while I'm watching it.
Of course.
And like especially watching movies with you guys, it's like much easier to find like a humor in place of that if something is frustrating the way it happens, and like taking delight in them getting me to like feel in some way for a moment, because it's just a movie. But sometimes a movie can still make me mad. And what I was thinking about was when me and one of my sisters saw Anger Management in theaters when it came out. And it made both of us so mad for some reason. We were like so irritated with it. I don't know. It just fucking sucked. It was just like every dumb thing that could happen in like the dumber way would. So like I feel like if I saw it now, I would probably like glaze over for most of it, but occasionally giggle and occasionally roll my eyes and probably just be like, whatever. But at the time, I was like getting like physically angry watching it.
Your Le Fin Absolue du Monde is anger management.
I know. Pretty ironic.
That's awesome.
Damn.
It would be cool if that was always a tell, though, that if somebody had an anger management problem, if it makes them angry when they watch anger management.
That was how they gauge you. That's what they do in your first session when you go into the counselor. That's what they do.
See how you respond.
How would you answer that question, Julian? What is your Le Fin Absolue du Monde?
I would say, my mind immediately goes to like live leak rotten.com stuff,
totally.
Like Kids in the Sandbox is like one that I had to like run away screaming from the computer.
I never actually watched it.
That's where they shove a dildo up a guy's urethra.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's what I
Have
say.
you heard of this one, Scott?
No.
This
nasty,
was the urban
dude.
legend. This is what
nasty.
At school, like at high school, people would be like, watch Kids in the Sandbox.
Yeah. I just think of that era where it was like, oh, have you seen Lemon Party? Or have you seen Tub Girl? Yeah.
Tub Girl, Tub Girl disturbed me a lot. I did see Tub Girl.
That's just images. It's not
I
even
know,
a talkie.
right, exactly. Kids in the Sandbox, Two Girls, One Cup was pretty notorious.
Yeah. The worst one for me was probably... There was this website that I found once when you could just find websites.
Right.
Like, that's not a thing anymore.
No, not at all.
Like, you could find weird websites. And there was a website called, like, Welcome to the Beast or something. If any of you know this, please DM us because I've been looking for this
please.
forever.
I've been kind of bad at checking the messages. Maybe leave it as a comment if you don't mind, because I see those a lot
It's called
easier.
like Welcome to the Beast or Enter the Beast or something, and it was like a Flash site that was just like the opening interface was just a bunch of TVs playing static, and you like moused over them, and the TV would start playing like some kind of like cursed video, for lack of a better.
Wow.
Oh,
It was so crazy. And like, it was all real shit. Like I clicked on one and it was just like a footage from a Peeping Tom's like handy cam, like watching a couple have sex. And it was like in subtitles had like commentary on their like sex. It was so disturbing.
Whoa.
And like, it took a while for me to realize that like, oh, this is like real. And then another one I clicked on was the infamous video of the like Chechen soldiers decapitating a Russian soldier. And that was like, that one's probably the most disturbing thing that I've ever seen.
Yeah,
because I did not know what I was getting into when I clicked on it.
Yeah.
That's the disturbing. The most angry I've ever been watching a movie was recently I saw The Counselor, the Cormac McCarthy movie. And that was like so angering and like left such a bad taste in my mouth for so long. Like,
oh, man.
It was truly remarkable. I've never seen like, that was the first movie in a very long time that I've seen that has like truly was like not funny. It was so bad. And it was like, had so much like effort put into it. And it was just fucking awful.
Damn.
Yeah.
Should I watch it?
Probably. I'd be interested in hearing other people's takes on it because I talked to a friend of mine about it who had also seen it like several years ago, and he said that it was just like really upsetting in a not enjoyable way.
Huh.
Yeah.
We'll do a double feature with Imprint.
Yeah.
Actually,
And
anger
we walk into your
management,
house and you're putting your intestines in your Blu-ray player.
anger management beside The Counselor kind of seems like a good like two people's La Fin Absolue du Monde movies that are also having to do with counseling in some way.
That's
I literally
funny.
don't know what The Counselor's about. I'm just going by the title.
It's about like a lawyer
Okay.
for the cartel or some shit. It's so
Oh, it's
dumb.
like the
Good
Pro
luck.
Bono Watchmen.
Good luck. Yeah. Honestly, good luck figuring out what the fuck is going on in that movie.
Sure.
Okay. I'll just rewatch the Pro Bono Watchmen instead.
Yeah, that was light years ahead of
I mean,
The Counselor.
so on the subject of like being subjected to gore images, I mean, I don't want to spend this episode like going in depth and like describing the horrible ones I've seen. There's one in particular that like haunts me to this day, that I don't need to describe. Because if someone hasn't seen that one, they've seen something like it. So we all whatever.
Sure.
But I do want to shout out one of my favorite Instagram accounts, Deathmentary VHS. Do you? I think you follow this person, Scott. Maybe not.
I do.
Yeah, his collection is so cool. So I don't know. I shouldn't even. I don't know anything about the person who runs it. They just post. They collect like real death compilation VHS tapes that people put out, and they just post like the covers of them and their reviews. And it's like, it's not a podcast, but it's like boys Bible study for like real death VHS tapes.
God damn.
It's incredible. I mean, for my band that just came out, watchasty.com, we're actually the graphic design of those tapes is like on our mood board.
Whoa.
That's like on our like design mood board.
Nice.
We haven't like released our album cover yet, but like it's Deathmentary VHS is like on my mood board. Like I really I don't there's a part of me now, I think I might be coming back around to my phase where like I don't know, but I might seek out something like that. But like I appreciate the work that person does, because honestly, if you read their descriptions, it kind of seems like a lot of them are just all the same recycled footage over and over again. You know, like a lot of them seem like really boring, which I mean, the account holder like admits right in the descriptions, but just the fact that they're out there, is really remarkable to me. Shout outs. But yeah, let's discuss the happenings of Cigarette Burns and its movie within a movie, La Fin Absolue du Monde, because there is a lot to be gleaned, both from a boys' Bible study perspective and just like a film lover's perspective by getting into this film.
So, from the film lover's perspective of actual film stock, it's funny that they all call it cigarette burns because I've never worked with people who refer to them as cigarette burns.
What are they called?
Cues.
Are they called anything?
The motor cue and the changeover cue.
Interesting. So I love that the whole premise. It's like the whole premise of this movie is like John Carpenter thought they were called cigarette burns, so he like made a movie where everyone calls them that as if it was facts, but no one actually calls them that.
No, I think it is like, I mean, maybe in another time period it was more common than just saying motor cue and changeover cue, but yeah, they're just the cues. And it's funny though too because where I was, funny to a very few people maybe. Where I was trained to do film projection, if a print didn't have cues on it yet, we would just make them ourselves with like a little tool that like scratches them out. But like,
interesting.
Where I've worked the past few years, like that would be a huge no-no. You use like a wax pen, you make sure it's on the non-emulsion side, the base side, and you wipe it off after you're done playing the movie.
I see.
Yeah.
So if you were, so the coworker who, or the projectionist who cuts out the frames with the cigarette burns on it, would that just like make your job impossible?
No. So that's a funny thing too, because you always inspect and check for those marks beforehand, the cues, the cigarette burns. And if it looks like they're off, then you measure to see how off they are to get it lined up right, so that like the motor starts it at the right time for the changeover, so that you can miss as few frames as possible. So
interesting.
Next time he would get the print back from me, he would probably just have to like cut out more of the movie.
There's a character in this film, a supporting character, who one of his little trolls that he does is he cuts out the cigarette burns or the cues from film reels that he gets. He collects them and he says, I do that because when you see the cigarette burns, that means something's going to happen, and without them, it's just anarchy.
Yeah, but doesn't it just mean the reel is ending?
Yeah.
So it doesn't, I mean, it could mean nothing.
Right.
Yeah, no, what would actually happen if you were in a hurry and you didn't check for those and that guy had your print last, is that you would see like scratches and stuff that looks way different than the movie, unless it's like a Stan Brakhage film or something. And then be like, oh shit, and then you'd start it up and there'd be like a few seconds different ultimately of the audience realizing that part of something was playing that wasn't actually the movie.
Right. Okay, so maybe this isn't the greatest troll in the world. Also, he's just trolling other projectionists, and come on.
Yeah.
Wow, that's already a small group of people.
Probably some executive went to the movies right after one of his little troll jobs and was like, this is why we need to get rid of the projectionist. We can do better than this. We can make it smoother. Yeah, they went to a platter system, and then digital was okay, and here we are now.
Our protagonist of Le Fin Absolue du Monde, what the hell is his name? I couldn't tell you.
Kirby.
Or our protagonist of Cigarette Burns. His character's name is Kirby?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
It's hard to remember because he doesn't look like a Kirby.
That must be why it's completely escaped from my memory. Kirby is a theater owner.
He's played by Norman Reedus of Walking Dead and Boondock Saints.
I gotta say, he looks good in this movie. I've got to say, he looks fine. Just one podcaster's opinion.
Yeah. Oh, I thought he was a great cast for this. I was not familiar with him, and I thought he fit real well.
I always thought he was a bad actor, but I've like really only seen him in Boondock Saints and Death Stranding, the video game he's like the star of.
Oh,
but
wow.
He was great in this. He was great.
Yeah.
He is a theater owner who's deeply in debt. In fact, he needs $200,000 to save his theater. What he does on the side, other than running a theater that screens all of the most rare transgressive films that I'm sure, no more than 45 pale people show up to see, sun deficient people, that won't make you $200,000 quick. So what he does on the side, he goes on the hunt, like a mercenary for collectors. He finds rare pieces, which is where we find him at the beginning of this film.
Yeah. And you know what's great about being an hour long? We're 3 minutes in and we already know all this.
I know. I love that, right?
Yeah.
Thank fucking God.
It's great.
Yeah.
A great feature of this film.
Literally just a character in 15 seconds will be like, what do you do? Oh, I hunt down rare film. I need you to find this crazy film for me. Perfect. Let's start the show.
And crazy film he does find, or he is assigned to find. He is approached by a collector who is very interested in a film whose title we've already said many times so far in this episode. The film is called Le Fin Absolue du Monde.
Le fin absolu du monde.
As we have revealed already, it is considered the most transgressive film ever made. It's not just that you watch it. It is that it is a film that actually impacts you with real psychic power.
Yeah.
It has a profound effect on your psyche just by you experiencing it.
When Kirby walks into the rich guy's house and the rich guy starts telling him how he collects the most debased film ever made, it reminded me of the first time I went to your house, Scott, except it would be like 80s talking dog cop movies. Or I guess monkey movies now.
Yeah.
I need you to track down the film Ape for me.
I have multiple movies named Ape to tell me where to send them.
Well, that's what's so delightful about Cigarette Burns is like, it is a film for film fans.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, anyone can appreciate it, but like to really be like a film head, this movie in I think a very delightful way, like plays toward your vanity, the viewer's vanity.
Yeah.
As like someone who likes to watch films that are off the beaten path.
Yeah. It's especially, it's going to be like that when the opening credits, it says directed by John Carpenter, overlaid over a poster for Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when they show the movie theater, they just like hold on the marquee saying Profondo Rosso.
Yeah.
Which is Deep Red, of course, by Dario Argento.
It's so funny because
cool.
like nowadays it's just kind of meaningless to like cite those kinds of films that were so much harder to track down.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What would you put up there now? It would have to be like
The Canyons.
2 girls 1 cup .mp4 on the
on the sign. That's such a good
on
idea.
the marquee.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's such a
my
good
God.
idea. Oh man.
Or like, and that's not even that's like basically an Avengers movie when it comes to that genre of film.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Again, if this film is about the exclusivity of film and media giving it power, and this was made in the 2000s, which is definitely approaching the internet era, but how far we've fallen. I mean, this feels like a charming concept now, where things that are lost forever, but everything that's available has been found, or so it seems. Maybe that's not totally true, but that's like the impression I get from being a film fan in these times.
Yeah, it does seem like we're going at a pretty efficient rate right now.
Yeah.
The pandemic in general was really good for movie distribution and movie restoration.
Oh, sure. That makes sense.
Yeah. Just for like the quote unquote home video market in general.
Yeah. Well, another thing that's important to keep in mind about Kirby's story is that he is haunted by images of his girlfriend who died. I believe she is like dead in the bathtub. Maybe she slit her wrist or something like that. But, you know, it's important to know this about Kirby because he is someone who's, you know, not just like going on about his way, but also someone who's like very, very haunted by this traumatic thing that happened to him recently. This is a theme that is woven in and out throughout the film.
Yeah, and adding some urgency to his quest is his girlfriend's father, who is also deeply affected by her loss, and is Kirby owes the $200,000 to, and he is threatening to not only shut down the theater, but also possibly kill Kirby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Since he blames him for his daughter's death.
Yes. And here comes a strange man who says, I will give you $200,000 right now if you can track down a print of
Le FIN ABSOLUE du monde.
Which is, if you remember in the pro bono Watchmen, is 10 times the going rate for illegal activity.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So this is big.
No, this is a big deal. Well, according to the logic of the pro bono Watchmen, it would have been polite for after he accepted $200,000 for the guy to say, "Actually, I'm going to give you $400,000," because we learned in that movie that if you want to get a crime done, you have to give them an offer and then double it with no negotiation.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
I felt bad for Kirby when he did. The original payment plan was $100,000, and he said $200,000, and the guy immediately was just like, "Sure."
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, having had to negotiate like freelance payment in the past, just, you know, we put out that second number and they immediately say yes, and you're just like kicking yourself. Like, I should have fucking asked for more.
Yeah. What about the third number?
Yeah.
Yeah. We never got that far.
Yep. Should have gone further. So it's Udo Kier who's the collector. Like that look in his eyes, you know, you can milk him for more.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, and here is where some of the Boys Bible Study Protestant filmmaking perspective comes into play, because the Faustian bargain has been introduced. Literally, the man has a material worldly problem. He's short $200,000. A man comes into his life who is I'm going to make that happen for you exactly and quickly. And the price is you need to seek out basically the ultimate sin. You need to make yourself a part of the ultimate sin ever made, which is
Le FIN ABSOLUE du monde.
what goes on. We mentioned it before, but what goes on in this film that makes it just so transgressive?
Yeah, because the collector does show Kirby a quote unquote prop from the film.
Yes.
That lets him know how big of a deal this film and the fact that it drives people into a rage.
Right.
How serious that is.
Right. And what is this film?
Yeah, what is it, Scott? Do you remember?
I think I do. The prop is a very weirdly lit angel with his wings cut off, and he's like chained to this slowly turning pedestal. This slowly turning, what do you call those things?
Turnstile.
Yeah, I would
a lazy Susan.
A lazy Susan, exactly. That's what is what I was thinking.
Well, sloth is one of the 7 deadly sins, so that makes sense. Yeah, I would just say pedestal, I suppose.
And Udo Kier, the collector, just to get his attention, throws ice cubes at him, which seems pretty mean. He's pretty mean to him. He's chained up, but like, yeah, that angel just lives like that in perpetuity. It's fucked up.
One thing that's so funny about the movie is that, the film is the object that drives people mad. To watch the film, Le FIN ABSOLUE du monde, that is what causes people to like massacre each other in the theaters. That being said, this creator literally has chained up and enslaved the angel, like one of which is. So we're supposed to understand is one of God's angels from heaven, like a supernatural being.
Like an actual angel, a real angel.
Yes. And this collector shows it to Kirby. And that's when Kirby just looks at him and is like, How about $200,000?
Yeah. I think the fact that it shows the actual angel right off the bat is what makes this such a disturbing episode of media, because like in most films it would be like you wouldn't see the angel at all, or you would only see it in the movie.
Right.
But here you actually see this fucking creepy angel guy without its wings.
And right up front, too.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just very, very unusual little like turn in the plot right off the bat to make you like really hits home like, oh, this is like definitely a cursed media. But I don't know. It can't be that bad for the angel. You know, they live in heaven for eternity, right? And so he's chained up for
maybe you have to have your wings to
25 years.
Oh, I gotcha.
Well, that's like a minute. Not even. That's like he's there for like an afternoon.
Yeah. It's like having your car break down for the first time.
Yeah.
Well, this begs the question. Well, first of all, one thing I wanted to mention is like, I do think it's interesting that seeing the angel with clipped wings in real life is less powerful than seeing the film where it happens. I think that says something about how like film concentrates the power of something. Like that is the nature of film.
And like the power of media in general, but also like that's why it's such a good film person movie too, because it's like you're way more obsessed with the movie about the thing than this thing that like infinitely affects like real people or like real lives.
So true.
Yeah, there's like hard evidence that angels exist in front of them, and they're still like, I gotta get the movie.
Gotta get the movie.
Yeah.
And I guess this also begs the totally hypothetical theological question, because the movie does not answer this. How did they get the angel?
I know.
I love that. That's like you never find that out.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's
so
a really good choice. But yeah, it just makes me wonder, you know, this film definitely implies that angels and earth intersect. And, you know, you have to wonder, did they use like occult or witchcraft or, you know, something like that? Or did they literally like capture this angel the same way that you like trap I don't know, trap like a some woodland animal?
Yeah, they put like a cracker with peanut butter on it in a bucket and a little ramp going up there. I feel like maybe, you know, God negotiated contracts for the angel that like basically prohibited him from being in any other movies until he was like 18 years old.
Oh, I wonder if it had anything to do with that executive producer credit on the Ja Rule movie, because they did it, executive producer God.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Maybe that's how God got into the game.
Yeah, when is that Hollywood power player going to get canceled? He's killed millions. He flooded the earth.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's all the same thing.
Teflon.
Yeah, Teflon God. Wow. So thus begins Kirby's descent into hunting for La Fin. And the very interesting thing about pursuing this film is that it's not even just seeing the film itself. It is the pursuit of it that starts to cause psychic changes in the person who's doing it. You see the titular cigarette burns, or cues, as they're less romantically known. You start to see them literally like in your field of vision, just these like bright, almost like a solar eclipse type of like quick like circle that happens.
Which, you know, that's like a good representation of like, you know, how easily consumed by the pursuit of something rare one can become.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, I also think that it sort of reminded me of like temptation in general, like sin and temptation in general, about how like the allure, you know, like as a Christian, the allure of something forbidden and sinful, it does make a little bit of like an imprint on you. Like it does. I mean, for me as a young Christian, even like looking for these movies and stuff, it was just like, once you become aware that something's out there and it just kind of like haunts you and picks at you, And even though you know it's not the right thing for you and you'll probably be disturbed by it, you just have to go for it, you know?
You got to do it. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Motto of young Christians in pursuit of sin.
I mean, Scott, this kind of reminds me of that one.
Oh.
This kind of reminds me of that one McGee and Me episode we watched. I think that was just you and me.
Yeah.
The one where they see the disturbing movie.
Yeah, they go to see La FIN ABSOLUE Du Monde. And
They
and
do.
Kill people in the theater. And they come home all bloody with their tails between their legs. And their parents are like, told you not to go.
Yeah, they go see, in this episode, they go see like a horror movie in theaters. And literally the moral of the episode, like their parents are like, if you watch this stuff, like it basically they're saying it poisons your mind.
Yeah.
It's like an image will be in your mind that you can't ever get out. Like they're basically saying like a horror film will, like you'll lose your virginity. Like the horror film will fuck you. And like you'll never be able to be like cleansed of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like a zombie movie.
Yeah, and they're in the theater like covering their eyes like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, making
like
disgusted faces.
Like they just ate too much ice cream or something.
Yeah.
You can just do EMDR therapy if you do that.
You can do what?
Never mind.
Okay. Also, that McGee and Me episode features a song that I still know all of the words to for some reason, which is insane. It was that catchy. Yeah. What you see is what you get. So you better make sure
that all the
it's
time.
heaven sent. Yeah, I sing it all the time. It's like so catchy. And it goes, listen to your mind. It'll stay right there in your heart.
You see and hear, they will come back to you. So be careful what you choose. There's some things you'll never lose. Stick it in your mind. It's gonna stay right there in your heart.
And I think about that all the time. Like, I'm not even kidding. And I know, like, we watched it. I think I had to listen to it a couple times while editing the episode, but like, I didn't listen to it that much. And I'm always thinking about it. So
Pretty catchy.
it is.
That's your La FIN ABSOLUE Du Monde is the fucking McGee and Me episode
It is burned.
where they see La FIN ABSOLUE Du Monde.
McGee et moi.
That would actually be a fun double feature, those two together.
Oh,
yeah,
so
that's
good.
great.
But yeah, a moral of cigarette burns. I wrote down this quote: "Some films are meant to be seen."
Even if they tried to destroy it, they couldn't. Some films are meant to be seen.
At one point, someone also says, "Once you start this, you can't shake it off or walk away. It gets inside you."
Once you start this, you can't just shake it off and walk away. It gets inside you.
That's how potent La Fin Absolue du Monde is. It doesn't just affect you when you're watching it. As soon as you start getting close to it, it rubs off on you like you're stepping into quicksand.
I just love that idea that, like, you know, he's kind of cursed once he learns about the movie.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That it like puts him on a path, you know, because he meets with the French guy who's basically like tells him if you've seen the cigarette burns, then it's already like too late, basically.
Yeah,
That's pretty rad.
yeah. Everyone knows he's damned.
Yeah. So who does he visit on his trail or as he tries to hunt down this film? I remember he visits the film reviewer who.
Yes, the film critic, the reclusive film critic, which I thought was like a very funny way of romanticizing what being a film critic is.
Who he goes to his house in upstate New York, and the critic's house is just filled with stacks and stacks of paper, which we find out is his final review of
Le fin absolu du monde.
La FIN ABSOLUE Du Monde.
Yes.
And I know that's probably like the 10th different pronunciation I've had of this movie, but I also do not respect the French language and refuse to acknowledge it as a real language.
No, who cares?
Okay. That part was unnecessary to say. Go on.
Yeah, so I mean, he's basically writing the equivalent of 1/4 of a film criticism Tumblr post.
Yeah, but he's had nightmares or dreams or both maybe of this movie ever since he saw it, because he's one of the only people who survived the one official screening of the movie.
Yep. Maybe he was destined to do so because, he is a film critic, because he is someone who can tell other people about this film. I've got to say it. This movie reminded me of The Ring.
Yeah. Including the circle.
Yeah. In fact, he was literally seeing circles that are sort of haunting your field of vision.
When did The Ring
I don't
come
think
out?
that's a bad thing. I recently watched The Ring. And
Which one?
Thought the American remake.
Okay.
Which I've seen the Japanese one too, sort of a while ago, but I rewatched the American remake, and I've got to say, absolutely genius movie, The Ring. Like, seriously, one of my favorite rewatches I've had in a while. I thought it was just like such an elegant and fun, and I may have said this on the show before, but what The Ring is about, it's the anxiety of media moving from analog to digital. It's about the film at the end. The film wants to be copied. It wants you to make more VHS tapes. It will kill you because it's so concerned about the fact that the means of film preservation and watching is disappearing. And maybe cigarette burns is like that. I mean, it's showing appreciation for film reels or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, this
interesting.
did come out 3 years after The Ring.
Mm-hmm.
So there had to have been a pretty big influence.
I assume so.
I should mention to you both. So this movie is only 2 reels long, which means it's pretty short as far as movies go.
You mean
Perfect.
La Fin? Yeah. How long do you think it would be?
Just judging by looking at how much film was on the reels when the angel's holding them towards the end, I was guessing 36 to 37 minutes long.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
All
Great
killer, no
pacing.
filler.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty sick too that they had 2 separate 1-reel cases that you carry at the same time.
Okay.
Instead of just a 2-reel case.
I see. Yeah, that is something that was not at all significant to me when I saw it in the film, but I think that's interesting. Why do you think they
to
did
me,
that?
that was
Just
a
for
sign of how psychotic it was.
Yeah, that was just for. What do you think that was for? Just it looked cooler.
Yeah, I think it looked cooler.
Okay.
And you really have to make the choice. I am taking both of these out of the case and playing both reels one after the other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the most amazing guy that Kirby visits during this trip is, of course, that one psychotic German guy.
Yeah.
Whose name I don't remember. It's not super important. But yeah, he ends up at this really cool, very hot German guy's house who has ties to the Bakovic estates, seems to have a direct line through his widow, and actually possesses some materials from the production of La Fin. But this guy is one of the best characters in the whole film. He really presents Cigarette Burns' arguments about transgressive cinema, what it really means to be transgressive, and can a film really be so honest and powerful that it changes people's hearts the way that La Fin does. It's interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. I don't remember if it was him or if Kirby says it at this time when they say, I don't want to see an ordinary film. I want to see something extraordinary.
The FIN ABSOLUE du Monde is no ordinary film.
That's what everyone keeps telling me. I'm gonna back off or something. I don't want to see an ordinary film. I want to see something extraordinary.
Is that true for you guys? At one point, it was true for me. I think a theme of my more recent life as a film appreciator has been to find the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I have more reasons to appreciate movies than ever. It's not like less as I get older. It's just like adding on to other reasons to appreciate things. So I would agree that I find the extraordinary in the ordinary, but also the extraordinary in the extraordinary too.
Yeah. We for this very show, we watch what I would call extraordinary films all the time.
Yeah.
I've gotten way better as I get older of appreciating parts of movies that I otherwise don't think are like that special. Like I feel like it used to be like an all or nothing kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
Like, or just like really only like to watch good movies. But now I feel like, you know, I can see a movie and be like, oh, I liked these parts. I didn't like that part. And overall it was okay. I think I'm appreciating okay movies more. I'm appreciating the ordinary for being the ordinary.
There you go.
That German guy takes off his shirt, sits on your lap, and is like, would you like to see an okay film?
Yeah. It's funny. It was like, I don't remember what he says exactly, but he's like, don't you only want to see honesty in film? And it's like, sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sometimes.
Yeah. It's like he's basically like one of my parents being like, and it's based on a true story.
Yeah. Well,
as he's holding a machete up to a woman's throat.
Yes. And filming it. And it becomes pretty clear that what this character finds to be honest filmmaking is basically killing people on film.
Yeah.
Like all his like arguments about what is truly transgressive and what is truly honest basically leads to his ideal type of film, like a one camera uninterrupted shot of someone being executed on film. I mean, hey, that is pretty transgressive, you know?
Yeah.
And I suppose it's honest in that it unflinchingly depicts its subject matter, but does that make it a good film?
I don't think so.
I could see how watching a real snuff film could change the way you look at cinema if you got something out of it that you didn't expect.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably what happened for him here.
I mean, I guess it just like begs the question of where do you put fetish film in the realm of like cinematic appreciation?
You know what? That's why we love Wave Productions.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, talk about Wave. The closest thing we have to snuff films. They're not snuff films at all. I don't want to give them that impression.
They're not.
They are fetish films, though.
They are fetish films, and everyone should watch Mail Order Murder, which is the Wave Productions documentary. It is great. Because the thing is, the guy behind Wave Productions who makes these fetish films, he looks at fetish the same way he looks at any type of trope he sees repeatedly in horror movies. Where it's like, oh yeah, some people like slashers, some people like thrillers, some people like he just sees it as like elements that happen. It's like sometimes people like seeing somebody get chased. Sometimes they seeing somebody get choked, but then surviving for 10 minutes.
Sometimes they like to see someone sinking in quicksand or
for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Or getting shrunk down and, you know, being in the palm of a giant woman's hand.
Right. Yeah.
I remember that. I can't remember if it was Wave or it was just people who were in Wave, but I remember we watched The Haunted Painting.
Yeah, no, that's
Scott.
a Wave movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember my snarky one sentence letterboxd review, which was, took a while to get to the painting, but it was worth it. Don't remember much more about the film, to be honest, but it's just the Wave films, they take a while to get to the painting. You know?
Yeah.
First you have to watch a woman get choked for 7.5 minutes.
Right.
But their movies are damn good. Love Wave.
Yeah, definitely have a specific vibe and look and charm to them.
Very much so, and I do think it elevates their fetish films to like the realm of art, for sure. I mean, because like their style and the way they deploy it and just like the worlds behind what's going on with them is like so entrancing that I think it becomes an art film. But Yeah, it's funny. I feel like Wave is like a fetish film that accidentally becomes art, whereas the German guy in this movie, his art film is just descends down back into the realm of fetish, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kirby sees a cigarette burn in a flash of white light, and suddenly, you know, he has essentially murdered the German guy.
Right.
But he's left with, he has a letter addressed to Hans Beckevich's wife. So he's able to find or it's a letter from her, I think, because he's able to trace the return address to Vancouver. She tells Kirby that, you know, her husband went insane trying to finish the movie and tried to kill her and killed himself. And she tells Kirby to go ahead and take the prints.
She's got the movie.
Fuck out of here. What did she say? She said she's been like trying to get rid of it for a long time or something, but couldn't bring herself to. Who cares?
Something like that.
Who cares? Anyway, he's got the movie and he's heading back to Bachman. Is that his name?
To Bellinger.
Bellinger.
Back to Bellinger. For
the exciting climax.
Yeah. The best projectionist kill I ever saw.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found that kill very difficult to watch. It's a really cool like horror gag that I've never seen before.
It is very gross.
So nasty.
It's very nasty. It essentially, for those who don't mind spoilers, I mean, you're listening to this after all, but it involves Bellinger, who's now screening the movie he's been wanting to see his whole life.
Le fin absolu du monde.
The film ends, and he's in the projection booth, and it just sounds like something horrible is happening to him. Upon closer inspection, Kirby sees him feeding his own small intestine through the film reel.
Yeah.
And he says that Le Fin inspired him so much that he wanted to make a movie of his own by running his intestine as if it were film, which I thought that was very, very cool.
He also had the really funny line of saying Le Fin was the coming attractions to the soul.
It's not a movie, however. It's a preview. It's the coming attractions of the soul.
Ooh, yeah, that was beautiful. Actually, I
Yeah.
had something to say about that.
Yeah.
I'm so
not a
glad you brought
movie.
that up. It's the coming attractions to the soul. So you've heard the phrase the dark night of the soul?
Yeah.
That was sort of what I thought. It was like the film person's like dark night of the soul. You know, I haven't read this book in a while. I read it at a time in my life where I was going through a dark night of the soul, but there's a very famous book by St. John of the Cross, which I have, if any of you wants to borrow it, but it's about like a Christian going through this like dark night of the soul, basically feeling as though you've been completely abandoned by God, and just like how to stay calm and how to stay patient and, you know, faithful in those times when you're going through something as so insane as that. But I guess before we have the dark night of the soul, we have the coming attractions of the soul. That's what they show before you go to the dark night of the soul.
Yeah, with the
Which is
dancing
awesome.
popcorn and licorice soda.
Super cool.
Yeah, so Bellinger had watched the film along with his butler.
Yeah.
And he had paid Kirby and then summoned him back to his house for some reason.
Right.
From unspecified reason. And Kirby comes back to find the butler has cut himself all over his body with a knife and then gouges his eyeballs out. And then he finds Bellinger feeding his intestines into the projection.
Right.
But he's also been followed by, his ex-father-in-law, who has now also discovered Le Fin Absolue du Monde.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been unwillingly wrapped up into its grasp.
I was thinking though, is it unwillingly? Is he like letting like his anger like fuel him in a supernatural way?
I think that's it. I think, you know, Le Fin is on one hand like a film, but I do agree with you, Scott, that it represents I mean, it represents many sins. It represents sin, getting the best of you. I definitely think it represents like anger getting the best of you. It's something that unlocks you to go past like the realm of civility and decency and do a horrible thing to another human being. It's the catalyst of that urge.
Yeah.
So, his father-in-law may not have known about the film, but he was already ready to access that part of himself. So he was ready for the film, which is interesting.
And after a struggle, Kirby forces him to sit down and watch the two of them sort of sit down and watch Le Fin Absolue du Monde, which, we finally get to see clips of the movie. And you see that the act committed in the movie, amongst other horrifying images, is an angel getting its wings ripped off.
Yeah.
Which, is made even more horrifying by the fact that Bellinger left the motion smoothing on the television.
It's in the wrong aspect ratio.
Yes.
Tom Cruise doing a PSA, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Tom Cruise. My most recent film is called Le Fin Absolue du Monde. I'm here to tell you to turn off motion smoothing on your television."
Or he has like one of those like David Lynch notes to like turn it up a full decibel beyond like what you think it sounds reasonable at.
Yeah, and the father is visited by a hallucination of his daughter coming back to life. She tries to bite his throat out, but Kirby reveals that it's just a hallucination, and then he kills the father and shoots himself. Meanwhile, the angel is freed from his shackles by the blind butler, takes the movie and thanks Kirby, and then walks out.
Yes, the movie, and maybe, in fact, the act of searching for the movie was like a built-in sort of like, what's the word? Like coded behavior of this thing so that the angel can be like rightfully returned to heaven.
Yeah, the angel did say at the beginning that as long as the film existed, he was bound to our realm of existence.
Right. So what I was thinking is that the angel actually takes those two reels with him and goes to Kirby's theater and reopens the theater now that the debt's paid off. And he plays Christian movies at the theater.
Yes.
And at the end he plays Christian movies, and he screens Le Fin Absolue du Monde. And at the end, it's like, text Le Fin Absolue du Monde to 5 people in your phone book right now if you want an angel to get its wings. Yeah, imagine this angel being like, anyone want to watch God's Not Dead 4? It's about homeschooling. Somehow even less people. No, wait, lots of people come. I forgot.
Yeah.
Everyone wants
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
If there's one thing we learned from these Christian movies, it's that there's a huge market for them. That is true, and it isn't true at the same time. It's funny how that works. Yeah. What else? Any other like major themes from Le Fin Absolue? I mean, the producer of the film is arguably the devil. It's not exactly revealed who he is, but
Mick Garris.
Yeah, he very well could be the devil too.
The producers of this film produce many other things: chaos, sorrow, suffering, famine.
That's so heavy-handed.
Yeah, it was awesome. I loved it. Well, it works so well because the guy has just killed someone and he's covered in blood, and again he takes his shirt off and is like just like dry humping this guy. So it's like, it works great because again it's like fetish.
Yeah.
Once again, we learned from these films, gay people are sick, y'all. I don't know what to tell you. Gotta watch out for those people.
It's also funny how the only like openly gay character in the film just decapitates a woman within 5 minutes of meeting him.
Many such cases.
Yeah.
What else? Anything we should say about this film?
I like the line where the critic Myers says that Bakovic He didn't want to hurt his audience. He wanted to destroy them completely.
Hans Bakovic was a terrorist. He abused that trust we place in filmmakers. He didn't want to hurt his audience. He wanted to destroy them completely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
We got to get back to that, you know. All every movie now is just like total just fan service, pandering.
Yep.
Right. It's
Trying to be like memey, you know. Everybody wants their movie to turn into like a meme or whatever. Not a lot of antagonistic.
Break
cinema,
me down.
I feel like.
I already forget what happened to the new Hellraiser. I watched that like 3 days ago.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. It's like, although the older I get, the less I'm like looking for a quote unquote antagonistic experience. It would definitely be a nice change of pace from what we've got going now. You know,
Yeah.
someone who actually loathed other fans, as opposed to like, they're not trying to do that, but it's like, who knows how many people making creative decisions to the point where like a film is so hammered out and like dumb and that it basically has no respect for its fans, even though that was like not the intention to begin with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Destroy us completely again.
It's the Funko
Bakovic.
Popification of cinema. But you know, I mean, I'm only talking about like mainstream movies. So
Yeah. Yeah, there's still.
it's always been like that ever since the freaking train pulled into station.
Imagine if you showed the greatest sacrilege ever on camera, a train pulling into a station. Only a film like that would have real power.
You would. The only thing you would have to change is the train would have to hit an angel when it pulls in.
Yeah, the angel's tied to the tracks.
Yeah.
Oh my God, like it's like a silent film.
Yeah. Like
Oh my
crazy
God.
piano playing the whole time.
It's 12 seconds long.
Yeah. Buster Keaton is like chopping and
Buster
trying to
Keaton
chop
isn't-
off his wings, but keeps like
Getting blown away
Yeah.
by the wind. The wind is too strong.
Yeah. The saw is like too wobbly or whatever.
Well, what do you say, boys? I mean, I thought this was a really brilliant horror movie that gave us a lot of religious themes to talk about. And I wonder, now that we've really, gone over it, what do we officially think of Cigarette Burns, John Carpenter's Masters of Horror episode? Could we possibly arrive on the official Boys Bible Study rating?
Yeah, I love this movie. It's about searching for a rare movie, which is fantastic. I love that already, let alone it being what it is, FIN ABSOLUE DU MONDE, which makes people go crazy and hurt each other when they see it. I liked the cast. I thought everybody was great in it. Love the crazy projection kill in the end. Just, it's a movie about somebody trying to find a rare movie who's trying to save their theater that only screens weird stuff, and they're a projectionist. I'm going to have to give this 8 out of 8 cigarette burns because you need 4 Q marks to signal to start the motor and 4 Q marks to signal to hit the changeover.
And imagine without those, it would be anarchy. That sounds like a perfect score to me.
Yeah.
It is.
I'll give this 1 out of 1 man, 1 jar, which is another horrifying video that you should not watch. It will send audiences into a frenzy.
Mm-hmm.
And I must find the jaw. You must find the jaw for me. You imagine having that guy with his bloody asshole just chained up in your gallery, slowly rotating. As long as the jar exists, I cannot leave this world.
Oh my God. Udo Kier is throwing ice cubes at him.
She's bound to her tub as long as the tub exists. As long as the tub exists, she exists.
Hell, what happened to that lady? That is some fucking crazy shit.
Her name? Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Wow.
The first female president. I would say This was a brilliant film. Honestly, one of my favorite horror things ever. Here's a random music school piece of trivia. So the film festival where La Fin was debuted in Cigarette Burns is called Cinema Fantastique. There's a very famous symphony called Symphonie Fantastique by Berlioz, where it's a story about a man who's descending into like chaotic delusion because he is like this woman doesn't love him back, and by the end the theme of the symphony is all like warped and like sort of chaotic at the end. Yeah, it's like some early like programmatic it's a very, very cool symphony. I don't know, maybe it's just a coincidence, but Cinema Fantastique, Symphonie Fantastique, a guy descending into madness,
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. I'm gonna have to give this film 120 out of 120 Days of Sodom. I thought that this is one of my favorite John Carpenter things, and that's saying a lot from a man who has done such impressive film. So I loved it. I'm very glad we got to speak about it on Boys Bible Study, the ultimate Christian movie podcast. We are now, of course, in our Halloween run. So stay tuned for Christian and Christian-themed horror coming up in the rest of October. Every Sunday, if you're a subscriber to our Patreon, you can get new episodes every Sunday. We release free episodes every other week on boysbiblestudy.com. Go there to listen and subscribe to our free episodes. But if you want new Boys Bible Study reviews every week, patreon.com/boysbiblestudy, where all subscribers $5 and up get access to our bonus episodes. And we want to especially thank our listeners on the $20 tier, our patron saints. Thank you very much. Nicole, Marissa, Jeff, Jane, Kara, and Rhett. Our outro music is Oh My God by Mary. From all of us here at Boys Bible Study, myself, Ash, my co-hosts, Scott and Julian, we would like to say, peace be with you.
And also with you.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me. Every day you